Good morning. We have significant and joyous news to bring you this morning on OTB AM. Our friend and colleague Nathan Murphy has reached a new high in his career. He has scaled a mountain that none of us thought was even possible. He is a truly international broadcaster, as we already know, flying into the Premier League grounds every week to bring the sounds of the UK into your radios. He wrestled the title of Ireland's top super broadcaster away from Joe Malloy and Gene Kilroy at the IMRO Sports Awards last year, Radio Awards even. He may have totally messed up his Mayo Mount Rushmore last month, but we all have our problems. This morning, though, Nathan has reached the highest peak in his career to date. That's right, at Nathan Murph has finished in 51st place in the Murray Tweet Index of Irish journalists who can tweet good. This is the highest finish by any member of Team OTB and the only OTB representative in the top 100. The rest of us can only dream to be the 51st best journalist on Twitter at this moment. One day, you will be as good at Twitter as Des Cahill, Nathan. A warm congratulations from all of us here on OTB AM. Huge news, Adrian.
You'd have to say that, like, Nathan's obviously one of life's great people, effervescent, humble, generous. Like, there's nobody that enjoys the fact that he's done so well in this list more than Nathan himself.
It's true. And I look forward to following at Nathan Murph to see at Nathan Murph congratulate at Nathan Murph at some point this morning. He finished ahead of Miguel Delaney is the first thing I see. Miguel finished 52nd, which is quite something. I would have thought that he would have been much higher on the list. So obviously the top 50 does actually pack a punch.
Do you think that his keen Stephen Gerrard fiery take, hot take does not even come close to doing it justice, was the thing that actually sort of propelled him up the list? Like, he's been the talk of the town for the last couple of weeks.
And not in a good way either.
No.
No such thing as bad publicity when it comes to the Murray Tweet Index, clearly. I wonder if this is the highest ever finished by somebody from OTB. And I wonder...
No, I think we've had people further up the list previously, but... Well,
wait to kill this bubble straight away, Adrian. Thank you very much. Like, why aren't you in the top 100 is my initial question.
Well, do you know what? My main thought, genuinely out of Nathan's inclusion there, was where the hell is Eoin Sheahan? Like, you know, surely there should be some room for, these 30 under 30 lists or whatever. Eoin Sheahan and the quality of his tweeting really needs to be in there somewhere. I mean, maybe it doesn't factor. I mean, maybe the fact that Nathan is on the list clearly indicates this. It doesn't factor in quality.
It's true. This is further proof that in modern Ireland, quantity is all that matters rather than quality. Just kidding, there's some absolute quality tweeters up there.
Result to work on for the next 12 months, I think.
It is, yeah. And a real carrot at the end of the stick for people here who actually want to get onto that list. Shane Hannon, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. I didn't make the list, unfortunately, but it's still a good morning.
Why not? Why do you feel... Actually, no, put it to you this way. Why do you think Nathan is the one that's made it beyond, 49 other top 100 journalists here? What is it about the quality of his Twitter account?
There's something about his hot takes that people just live for. I know he tweeted the James Carr goal for Mayo that went pretty viral.
There is that.
And you know, he gets to spend some time in some pretty decent Premier League grounds at weekends that we'd all love to do. So he's got the vantage point, he's got the images, he's got the filters, and he makes use of his hashtags. So he deserves his place. He's just missed out in the top 50, which I know will be disappointing for him, but he's done quite well, and he's got next year. There's always next year to break into that top 50.
He's just taking each tweet at a time. On its
merits, yeah.
Yeah, there's they say that social media sets unrealistic expectations for people. Like the lifestyle of Nathan Murphy sets unrealistic expectations for what our hopes and dreams should be. We can't all have a sepia-tinted photograph of the Hawthorns on our social media every week, but Nathan Murphy manages to achieve that.
Do you know, I will say, actually, lads, it shouldn't go past without acknowledging, we obviously been in the absence of football over the last number of weeks, and one of the biggest things that I've missed, like, people are talking about the return of it and it'll be on free to air and how exciting the whole thing is, but one of the things that I would say that I have missed over the last few months has been Nathan's regular tweets of a Sunday about how much hard work he's done by writing out his notes in pen in different colours.
They look really nice, and he's not the only person who does that. Whenever I see handwritten notes at a Premier League game now, I think Nathan. He's almost got the brand down so well at this point. It's almost as if he invented handwritten notes.
He's definitely not fishing for likes.
when I interviewed Clive Tilsley last year, the year before, like he had his notes. He brought some of his handwritten notes from the Champions League final, and they were immaculate. But he has started selling them now online, so like Liverpool fans can buy framed versions of his notes from the 2005 Champions League final. Similarly for United fans for the '99 final. So Nathan, the fact that he's in this top 100 now means he's an influencer. So maybe he can start framing those notes and, I don't know, sticking them up on eBay for the Irish audience. I think people would.
I would say there'd be a
big
market for that, Shane.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's great.
We should say as well on that, like in the absence of any response from the man himself, you and I were pushing very hard to have Nathan on this morning, but we were vetoed by producer Tommy. He just decided that we didn't have room for him this morning. But it should be on the record.
We don't have time.
Yeah. No
Shane,
time for him, he said.
Shane, you've got a big piece of content coming our audience's way this weekend. What's happening?
Yeah, it's a pretty decent interview. It's a man who I've been chasing for quite some time. Not literally, of course, but he's an 84-year-old. So, figuratively speaking, Gene Kilroy is his name. He's an 84-year-old now, but he's had an extraordinary life. Even aside from the fact that he was Muhammad Ali's business manager, the press used to call him the facilitator. He was one of the guys integral in setting up the Rumble in the Jungle with George Foreman. Even when he retired, I mean, he used to work with the Philadelphia Eagles. He ran the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas. He still lives in Vegas to this day. But he's an Irish-American. His great-grandparents emigrated from Inchicore in the 1800s. But, he was there for so many moments of history. I mean, he's the last surviving member of Ali's inner circle. So he has extraordinary stories. He talks well about Ali's legacy, and he introduced Ali to Elvis years ago as well. He talks about the rivalry with Joe Frazier and setting that fight up as well, and loads of interesting stories that kind of highlight Ali's just the complicated nature of Ali, and his draft dodging in Vietnam, his religion, and his obsession with Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and these figures that were so crucial in his life. And Gene has seen it all, and the way he tells these stories, it's an hour-long interview, so it'll be on OTB Sports Radio this Sunday, as you said, Owen, 7 p.m. So you can watch it first or hear it first on offtheball.com or otbsports.com rather, or the Go Loud app. So really good interview. It'll be on YouTube thereafter. But I think we've got a short clip as well. So this is a clip of Gene talking about the Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman, being on the flight with Ali on the way over. Ali's looking for ways in which he can get one over on Foreman and make the people in Zaire, where the fight was taking place, fall on Ali's side. So here's a clip.
When we got off the airplane, Ali turned to me. He said, "Who don't they like here?" I said, "I guess white people." He said, "Well, I can't say George Foreman's white. Someone might hit you with his poison dart or something. Who else?" I thought for a minute. I said, "To Belgium." So we got off and they were screaming, "Ali, Ali, Ali." And Ali goes, "George Foreman's in Belgium." And they start screaming, "Ali Boumaier." And I asked our interpreter, "What does that mean?" "That means Ali, kill him." Well, the Belgium used to put the German police dogs on the blacks over there. So when George gets off the airplane, he had a dog there, Diego, his German Shepherd dog. He walked out to people and saying, "Belgium, Belgium." I said, "Ali, we're home free."
The slickest guest in the history of Off the Ball, Shane. Slickest guest.
He was a dapper Don. I mean, there was no messing around. I thought to myself, this is never going to work, and trying to get an 84-year-old to do an interview on Zoom. But he managed to get his grandson to come over to his house in Henderson, Nevada, and help him out. So we got there in the end. But I mean, these extraordinary stories. He talks about the Croke Park fight when Ali fought Al Blue Lewis in 1972 in Dublin. And I think there was 20,000 tickets, 25,000 tickets sold. But as soon as the first bell rang, 5,000 people who hadn't paid for tickets clambered over Hill 16 and watched the fight for free. So Kilroy said he was proud of that, even though he was missing out on money because people weren't paying for tickets. He was proud of the Irish spirit and the fact that these people snuck into the fight. So some extraordinary stories.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's coming your way this Sunday on OTB Sports Radio. What is going on in the world of sport this morning, Shane?
Yeah, we'll kick off with the excellent news this morning. It's not Nathan Murphy's appearance just outside the top 50 of the Tweet Index. It is the Premier League preparing for the rest of this season, being played behind closed doors. A deal has been struck for all 92 remaining games to be televised, with games across the entire week. As part of the agreement, the BBC will show live Premier League matches for the first time in the history of the competition. The campaign will get underway with Manchester City against Arsenal and Sheffield United's clash with Aston Villa on June the 17th. Liverpool's potential title clincher against Everton on the following weekend will be shown free-to-air by Sky Sports. The FAI's Deputy Interim CEO, Niall Quinn, will meet with players' representatives from the League of Ireland later. They are set to discuss the delay in creating a schedule for the return of the SSE Airtricity League. Players and staff from the 4 European qualified clubs all completed a first round of COVID-19 testing this week, with all the results coming back negative. Meanwhile, Bayer Leverkusen have the chance to climb to third in the Bundesliga with a win at Freiburg this evening. Champions League chasing Bayer Leverkusen are looking to bounce back from their midweek defeat to Wolfsburg. Victory for Freiburg would see them move within a point of the Europa League places. Meanwhile, Serie A clubs are set to meet today to discuss the schedule for their return to games. The Italian government last night gave the go-ahead for top-flight matches from June the 20th. It's likely the Coppa Italia semi-final second legs will be played a week earlier on June the 13th. Should mention as well, in case you missed it this morning, John Giles has been picking his Wales 11, his all-time Wales 11. That is up on otbsports.com. Loads of big names in there. Ryan Giggs, Ian Rush, Neville Southall. He talks about them all. So really good stuff from John Giles as always. otbsports.com is a place for that. The GAA have reiterated they won't rush the return of matches or opening of their facilities. President John Horan says they'll only consider bringing forward their planned dates if it is deemed safe to do so. Meanwhile, golf news this morning, lads. European Tour Chief Keith Pelly insists this year's Ryder Cup is still on the schedule. Padraig Harrington's European team are set to defend their trophy against America at Whistling Straits in September. Brooks Koepka, John Rahm and Rory McIlroy are among the players who have suggested it should be moved to 2021 to allow supporters to attend. The British Grand Prix is expected to be pushed back to August as Formula One prepares to unveil an 8-race European schedule to get the delayed 2020 season underway. It's understood the proposed calendar instead includes the Hungarian Grand Prix on July the 19th, before races in the UK over the first 2 weekends of the following month. And finally, from me this morning, lads, the Boston Marathon has been cancelled for the first time in its 124-year history because of the ongoing pandemic. The event is the longest-running major annual marathon in the world, having been held every year since 1897.
Good stuff, Shane. Thanks a million for that. Let's tell you what's coming up this morning on OTB AM. We're with you until 10 o'clock, as ever, on this Friday morning. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to get stuck into the sports pages. And then after that, at around 8:30 this morning, we're going to be chatting to former Ireland head coach Joe Schmidt. He'll be on the line with Alan Quinlan as we reflect on some of Ireland's greatest moments at the Aviva Stadium in terms of rugby. We've got Tipperary hurler Michael Breen on the line as well a little bit later on. And then we're finishing off the show, as we tend to do at the moment on Friday mornings, with our Mount Rushmore. This morning, it is Sligo. Before that, time for the sports pages.
OTB AM.
Start with offtheball.com. Sancho feeling pressure from expectation, says his teammate Thomas Delaney. That's Jadon Sancho there, who's put up incredible numbers so far this season. Back to play now in the Bundesliga, still got a £100 million price tag on his head. The players set my yoga mat on fire. Paul McVeigh in his alternative career, the former Norwich player there. Italy Serie A set to resume matches from June 20th, while Magical looks set for Pretty Polly Stakes run, says Aidan O'Brien. And then finally a bit more from John Giles last night. He picked his all-time Wales 11.
Front page of the Irish Independent this morning, very content-looking Jason Quigley there. His home in Donegal alongside his daughter there, Sierra. The front page, a splash there on the Indo. And reflective mood about the impact of lockdown and how a return to simple things has worked for him, as he had been in various interviews with us as well over the last number of weeks. This 6-week feast to finish the season is the big story here from Jason Burt, John Percy and Sam Wallace. It does dominate most of the back pages, it has to be said this morning, and sure, why wouldn't it? Manchester, some interesting detail here starting to emerge after yesterday's Premier League meeting. Manchester City against Arsenal and Villa against Sheffield United will mark the Premier League return on June the 17th. Hallelujah! Says every sports fan this morning. It's Wednesday. It's going to be games at 6 o'clock, games at 8 o'clock on that day. More games on the Friday at 8 o'clock, it seems, and then into a full programme of games over the weekend as well. More details on where they're going to be broadcast. It's Sky TV, it's BBC, it's BT and Amazon. It seems like Sky, of the 64 games they're going to show, 25 of them they're going to put on free to air. BBC are going to get 4 games. Looks like Amazon will get 4 games. And BT then obviously get the remainder. So that's the way it all breaks down. Venues to host the games still up for discussion. This is one of the slightly contentious points, because there are 12 games they've identified as being in high risk categories. Those would be Liverpool's potential to win the title against either Everton or Manchester City, and also any London derbies they feel would be open to a lot of people congregating outside the ground, which they're ultimately looking to avoid. So, all games obviously behind closed doors, and looking to wrap the season on the weekend of August 1st and 2nd. So this is like the great news that we've been, from a sports point of view, waiting for the last number of months in the mountains and mountains of speculation about how and when and where and all that sort of stuff. At last, we have some actual detail, and it's coming back on.
There's only so much interest in the Bundesliga we can maintain over the next little while, especially because the title's wrapped up. Like, this feels important now all of a sudden, and I think when it comes to fans of other sport as well, there's only so much interest you can have in, say, the New Zealand Rugby League or whatever it is. That, like, I think that after a period of time that this sort of thing, you need your bread and butter back, and Premier League is one of those things, and this is huge for Irish football fans for sure. Like, is this going to be something for the future, do you think, the prospect of essentially watching every single game live if you want to?
Well, like, there is more detail in more of the papers about the size of the rebate that the clubs are going to have to pay back to TV broadcasters. So, like, the entire commercial world, we were talking about it in one of the news rounds during the week on the radio show, the entire commercial world is around sport, I mean, around everything, is in such disarray at the minute and uncertainty. Like, the sums that have to be repaid back to the TV broadcasters are staggering, even in the context of them still showing a number of games. So, like, what impact that has, is there a rush out the other side to just get back to where we were? Like, I think probably, to be honest, given the levels of commerciality that exist around it, and I'm sure the thirst for the broadband companies to essentially sell their product isn't going to disappear anytime soon, and so they'll always be able to, outbid the likes of the BBC. And so after that, it's a question of whether the Premier League have suddenly got very attracted to the idea that they can get more people consuming their games. Like, I kind of doubt it, to be honest, but everything is just so uncertain on. It's impossible to predict. My sense is that money wins out, and the money is not with the BBC.
No, I guess not. But I mean kind of more in the sense that all these kick-off times are staggered. It is like the World Cup, where, like, you can sit down for that first Sunday of the World Cup is always just this insane day where there's 4 games back to back. Whereas this is now going to be every single weekend for the remainder of the Premier League. Like, I think when it comes to the World Cup, there's always a novelty where it's like, oh, I haven't seen Senegal play. I'm going to sit down and watch 90 minutes of this football team play. Are you going to watch West Ham United versus Sheffield United at 2 o'clock on a Sunday? It probably has less of an appeal, but I still think it's brilliant that the opportunity is there, and I can't see this being put on the table for viewers and it being fully taken away next season, for example. I think, like, we've already started moving this way, haven't we, where we've got Saturday night games, we had Friday night games from last season. Like, you sometimes have 3 games on a Sunday and then into a Monday as well. They've already got pretty close to staggering the games and spreading them out beautifully, but I think this could be more of a situation where you could have Premier League every single night.
It's difficult because it's needs must now, and in needs must scenario, everybody gets aboard and is agreeable to just getting it done because it's for the best for everybody that these games get played and that they get shown, obviously, in terms of a health and safety point of view. Like, that will disappear at some point, and so it's just how everybody reacts after that. But sorry, yeah, no, if it's a case of putting the games out on the various platforms, like, I'm the West Ham Wolves at the minute, I'm like, oh Jesus, bring it on.
Yeah.
But, like, once we see 2 or 3 weeks of football, West Ham Wolves is going to disappear off your radar in a way that, who gives a toss. The other story in the Irish Independent this morning that's worth mentioning is a tease inside to the Irish Open, a possible date for the Irish Open. Obviously, announcement yesterday about the European Tour getting back in the end of July, I think, and so a possible October date for the Irish Open. So, like, the offshoot of all of this is we're in for an unbelievable 5 or 6 months of sport across the board as all of this thing gets concertinaed into the remainder of 2020, hopefully. Yeah,
and summer 2021, assuming things keep going on the right trajectory, is set to be just an unbelievable summer of sport as well. So the price we've paid over the last little while, we could be getting the dividends of it over the next little while. The Irish Examiner this morning leads with Brian O'Driscoll's quotes here: "If you can't play the game as we have seen it, there is no point." So this is about the potential law changes that could happen in the game of rugby, and he says we should be wary of doctoring the sport's DNA in a rush to get back playing. He says it's a balance between getting the game back but also not sanitising the version of what we know and love. If you can't play the game as we have seen it, if you have to go with stark modifications, there is no point in resuming, and that's a point that Alan Quinlan echoed this week on OTB AM. TV fans, meanwhile, set for a feast when Premier League returns on June 17th. As we've mentioned, Harrington says get neutral to set up Cup course. Patrick Harrington has made the case for the Ryder Cup courses to be set up by neutral parties rather than the host tour. So he said that they will have no say over Whistling Straits venue in Wisconsin, how it will play whenever the biennial tournament does actually tee off, and things like that. So the host continent would have less of a say of how the course is actually set up, how big a difference it actually makes. I'm not sure. Obviously, the home fans make a bit of a difference, but that could level the playing field somewhat, especially when it comes to the US coming here as well. Stockdale, meanwhile, enjoying process of reinventing himself in lockdown. Jacob Stockdale's been back out doing the rounds yesterday, and Irish Open still in limbo as European Tour plots return, writes Simon Lewis.
The London Times, meanwhile, is you saw a quick glimpse of it there a second ago. Mo Salah with his kit off is again one of the pictures that's on a lot of the back pages this morning. The Times have not included the six-pack, but it's coming in a little bit, folks, and stay tuned for it. It's bloody impressive. But Mo Salah in delightful mood there. Football back on June 17th. It writes Liverpool denied the chance to win Premier League at Anfield, according to Martin Ziegler and Matt Lawton. Again, more details on these agreements that are being put in place yesterday and will be, I think, in the middle of next week. There's another meeting of Premier League clubs and bosses. They've identified 12 high-risk games, as we mentioned. There was a chance that fans would congregate outside the grounds. One of those being when Liverpool can mathematically clinch the title, as we said, that will be either against Everton or Man City. And £40 million rebate to TV companies is the other story here. Each club, it says, is going to pay the exact same to the TV companies, but those who make less TV money will be subsidised from the Premier League. So the cavernous nature of the response to all of this stuff is fascinating. But the sums of money that we're dealing with here, 340 million quid to go back to TV companies on the basis of those like few games. It's 4 on the BBC and 4 on Amazon as well. That they're not going to be. They're incredible sums of money. So that's more detail there in the London Times.
The Irish Times this morning leads with a photograph of Game On, Australia NRL returns. So these are supporters of the Parramatta Eels. They've celebrated after their side scored a try against the Brisbane Broncos in the NRL yesterday. So this is like, maybe we should just embrace this, Adrian, all these photographs from Australia and New Zealand looking enviously on, and the Bundesliga as well, because it's a strange time when these are actually the main photographs on the sports pages. In 1 month's time, exactly, less than a month's time, we're going to have Premier League footballers once again dominating the back pages. The couple of stories here, there's 3 rugby stories leading the way here. Farrell provides insight into changes, writes Jerry Thornley. Monday reviews like therapy for players. Ireland coach tells webinar at aid of Pieta House. Gavin Comiskey, funding model for Irish game is not sustainable, says Philip Brown, the RFU chief executive, was on Keith Wood's State of the Union yesterday. You can check out the full piece on youtube.com/offtheball. And meat, veg and intermittent fasting, the order of the day. This is Andrew Porter writing a guest column in the Irish Times this morning. Bit of a foodie, but he's also got into the idea of intermittent fasting, which is something that Cian Healy has got into. And he's actually mentioned that Cian Healy introduced me to it. It's something I did like in school, and it's handy for me. Training with Leinster, I didn't have to worry about getting up and preparing food. All I had to do was get a coffee, get into meat, get out the door and get into training. Then he goes into some of the stuff he's been cooking during lockdown. He's done a lot of his shopping in Aldi, which is handy to buy a lot of bulk. And one of his favourite meals tends to be a ribeye or fillet, would be his favourite. I slap it on the barbecue and ready to go. Medium for my ribeye and blue for my fillet, less than rare. Sometimes I allow myself a glass of rouge, especially with a good steak. I'm a Malbec man. You can't have this without that. What are your thoughts on that? Are you a Malbec man or what?
I wouldn't be a Malbec man. I mean, I wouldn't say no to Malbec, but I'd be more of a Tempranillo, Rioja, Grenache type man on.
Jesus, you would knock it on with him, so.
I got a barbecue. I got a barbecue in the post yesterday. I spent yesterday evening piecing it together, and it is going to get cracked open this weekend. The steaks will be on, the red wine will be out on, and we'll be getting stuck in.
Emma just said you have a huge letterbox.
I do a bit of intermittent fasting myself. between breakfast and lunch, and then lunch and dinner. Sometimes there's a few snacks involved. I don't know what intermittent fasting is, but I can't imagine there are a lot of people at the minute. I don't know about you, but I find I'm eating my way through lockdown.
Oh, I waited till, I'm all on board, I waited till evening time to even have my breakfast yesterday. The problem was I had like 4 meals before breakfast, and then I had a bowl of bran flakes at like 6 p.m. because I was still hungry after a massive dinner. Absolutely, the consumption levels have gone through the roof.
I've started rewatching Seinfeld on it's on the All 4 app. I started watching it. I think I've seen pretty much every episode of Seinfeld, but in no order. So I've never watched it from start to finish, which I'm in the process at the minute. But Jerry does a lot of eating cereal in the evening, and I've now found myself doing the exact same thing. The Cheerios get cracked open at like 10 o'clock at night, and I happily get stuck in.
If you wanted further evidence that Adrian Barry is indeed the Jerry Seinfeld of OTB, well, there you go. You've got it.
In my eating habits only, I'm sure you're about to point out. The Irish Daily Mirror this morning, Mad Chester is the headline here, obviously in relation to Liverpool's chance to perhaps win the Premier League title, not in Liverpool, but in fact either at Old Trafford or indeed at the Etihad Stadium. So Manchester is the headline there in the Irish Daily Mirror. It's all about the Premier League return. On that paper this morning, barring a line in relation to an article from Paul Keane, who's been speaking to Dublin footballer Jack McCaffrey, who talks about pay for play, and he says would destroy Gaelic entirely. When Jack McCaffrey speaks, obviously people tend to sit up and take notice. The pay for play one is a constant point of interest, and I for one believe that at some point or another we are going to wander into some area of compensating players for playing, whether that's outright pay for play. I probably doubt it in my lifetime, in our lifetime, possibly not, but I definitely think at some point or another, given the impact that it has on people's lives, I think at some point or another we are definitely headed into, beyond mileage, some sort of a equitable pay-for-play scenario.
Definitely. Back page of the Irish Daily Star is Here We Mo, and that photograph there of Mo Salah. Salah's Reds could win crown in Manchester as Prem restarts. That's the UK Star on screen. With stories about Odi Nagalo, amongst others. But in the Irish Daily Star, you've got iconic moments of Gaelic football. Martin McHugh's going through his top 50 of the last 50 years. And this morning, you've got a photograph of Leitrim winning Connacht in '94. So that's one of the moments they're talking about today. Clubs could return sooner, writes Kieran Cunningham. GAA county boards are planning to have club games ready to go if the roadmap to reopen the economy is adjusted. And FAI to seek new bailout, writes Paul Lennon. Irish football is set to seek its second government bailout in months, I should say, as it battles to cope with the severe financial impact of coronavirus on its income.
The Irish Sun this morning, this is Banfield, a bit of a play obviously on words here, says the Sun. Liverpool facing neutral venues until the title is won, and Charlie White writes about the excitement obviously of a bumper few weeks of football.
Next up for me is the Mail. It's back. All 92 games on live television as Premier League restarts, with City against Arsenal and Villa against Sheffield United. And returning GAA players must accept risks of infection if they want to play, says O'Shea. So this is Aidan O'Shea, who's been out doing the rounds, saying that players will have to sign up for the risk of becoming infected if the GAA season is to restart. We probably have the ability to control people in and out of McHale Park if that's where we're training, and try and limit that. But then we're amateur footballs. Brendan Harrison's going to be building houses. I'm going to be working for Allergen. So how you control that is going to be very, very difficult indeed. And that is the big problem, the unique problem that the GAA faces when it comes to a return to play.
The Guardian for you on this Friday morning is a picture of Tottenham training its young son and Harry Kane out. Harry's got that kind of why I oughta stance going on there, as if he's about to punch Son, and then in a playful way, obviously, and then realises that he can't touch his teammates, so as to hold back. But obviously the excitement of the return of football, Tottenham training there. And Silverstone set to confirm August Formula 1 doubleheader over on the right-hand side there from Giles Richards.
Finally for me, or the second last one for me, I should say, is the Daily Telegraph. It's back. Football returns on June 17th. Safety clearance still needed, but games will be played behind closed doors and televised live, with season planned to end on August 1st to 2nd. So it's a short enough window to actually finish it. I don't think, like, even Wolves versus West Ham, as you said earlier on, Adrian, that could still be palatable come August 1st and 2nd. Like it is only 6-7 weeks, so it's doable to still be interested come the end. Also good news as well, the Telegraph writes, for fans of cricket, golf and gyms, but the main photo there is of Mo Salah showing off his abs. That is the Daily Telegraph this morning.
They're impressive, aren't they? They're bloody impressive. Like, the man has spent nothing over the last 2 weeks doing nothing other than working on his abs. They're incredible. The hurl for you this morning, a couple of stories to mention here. First of all, on the right-hand side, a story there from Dan McDonald in relation to League of Ireland players and the fact that they've had to dip into that International Players Fund that was set up by James McLean. Edla Stevens was involved in that. James Coleman contributed to it. The Fans Forum, You Boys in Green, contributed to it. And given the state of the League of Ireland finances at the minute, they've had to start dipping into that fund to compensate players. So more details on that inside. And obviously more detail as well. Martin Brehony's top 20 players own in football and hurling in each of the provinces. What is it about a list that we absolutely love and are eating up in every format at the minute? Have you had a look at this?
I had a look earlier on, yeah.
We should have got ahead of you there. Some of the selections, I suppose. Ulster's number one footballer is Peter the Great. Peter Canavan at number one there. Leinster, it's Stephen Cluxton. Interesting, they've put Matt Connor at number two in that. Almost didn't make the awfully off the ball Mount Rushmore. But
it's interesting that Stephen Cluxton is the only member of the only 5 in a row winning team in the history of Gaelic football to be in the top 5 of that list.
Yeah, like you suspect that maybe Brian Fenton with another 3 or 4 years under his belt obviously gets in. But I mean, when you're talking about like all-time lists, it is difficult. And particularly, as we've seen with Mount Rushmore, people tend to veer away from... They have almost a anti-recency bias, right? Like they feel comfortable leaving out players who are currently playing, with the flimsy excuse, as I see it, that their time is coming. Connacht's Pádraig Joyce. Kerry obviously dominate, absolutely dominate the Munster list. Jacko is number one. They have only one of the top 5 is a non-Kerry player, and he's not even from Munster. He's from Kildare. Larry Tompkins squeezes in there, and I'm sure that gives you absolute delight. And on that basis, there's only one non-Munster, non-Kerry born player in the top 10, and he only squeezes in at number 10, Billy Morgan. And you look after that, the next name is Jimmy Barry Murphy at 15. Kerry be good at football on. It's the short story for these top 20 lists.
Larry Tompkins ahead of Gooch is a hot take, which we probably don't have the time to get into right now.
Yeah, maybe he kind of felt that the top 3 was enough, and at that point it was time to give somebody else a chance.
The best is the best. That's all you can go with, Adrian. As has been the case with our Mount Rushmore, we've often been spreading things across sports or spreading things across eras, just to be fair. But fair isn't always right. One last paper from me this morning. It's the Irish News. Pay for play is not a player's agenda. That is Aidan O'Shea, who's been out speaking. Horan acknowledges frustration, and then the main photo there of Raheem Sterling in action for Manchester City. Manchester City will be in action very soon themselves against Arsenal, one of the first games to take place in the resumed Premier League. It is 8:33 on this Friday morning, and delighted to say we're going to have Joe Schmidt with us next here on OTB AM. But first, if you missed it, on Monday Night Rugby, Ronan O'Gara and Keith Wood had a fascinating conversation about confidence, mindset and plenty more. You can find the full piece on offtheball.com or on the Rugby on Off the Ball podcast stream. You can get it as well on our YouTube channel. Have a look at this.